When you think of Swiss watches, you probably think of precision, timeless luxury, a market that just keeps going up and up, right? Well, what if I told you that behind that polished, perfect face, something kind of unexpected is happening? Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, for some of the world's most famous watchmakers, 2026 did not get off to a great start. The very first reports of the new year, well, they weren't just a tiny blip. They were signaling a real shift happening just under the surface.
And this is the headline number that got everybody talking. A 3.6% drop in exports. Now, I know what you're thinking, that might not sound like a total catastrophe, but in an industry that's measured in the billions, that's a tremor that gets your attention. So the big question is, why?
To figure this out, we need to go beyond that headline number and really get into the details of the January data.
So that 3.6% drop? In real money, it means total exports fell to 1.92 billion Swiss francs. To put that in perspective for you, that's nearly 2.5 billion US dollars in just 1 month. We're talking about a massive global industry that's feeling a very real pinch.
So where is this drop coming from? Well, the data points a very, very clear finger at one specific and very important market.
Look at that, a staggering 14% drop in exports to the United States. I mean, a double-digit decline in the industry's single largest market is more than just a tremor. That is a significant jolt.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. The Federation of the Swiss watch industry themselves pointed right at the US, confirming its performance was the main thing dragging down the entire global average.
But here's where the story gets more complicated. If you just stopped at the US numbers, you'd think it was all bad news across the board. But it's not. The reality is much more of a mixed picture globally.
So, is this a global trend? Are consumers everywhere suddenly just turning away from these amazing timepieces? Well, the answer might surprise you.
This slide tells the story perfectly. While the US is down a sharp 14%, just look at China. It's up 5%, which suggests demand is still pretty strong there. And then there's France. It is on an absolute tear, up an incredible 37%. That's likely driven by strong local buying and tourism bouncing back. So you see, this isn't a simple story of decline. It's a story of major divergence between key markets.
And just when you think you've got a handle on it, a slump in the US, but growth in Asia and Europe, there's another, even more fascinating layer to peel back.
This whole global divergence thing is fascinating, but it leads to an even bigger question. It's not just about geography. We've looked at where the watches are going, but now let's look at which watches are selling. And this, to me, is the most revealing part of the whole story.
Check this out. At the very top, the most expensive watches, those over 3,000 Swiss francs, are actually down 8% by value. This is the segment that's really feeling the pressure, maybe as high-end consumers pull back a bit. But now, look at the segment right below that, watches between 500 and 3,000 francs. They aren't just up, they are booming with 18% growth. This sweet spot, what you might call accessible luxury, is thriving. Even the lower price tiers are seeing modest growth. So the key takeaway here is that the weakness is concentrated right at the very top of the market.
Let's just focus on that number for a moment, plus 18%. This is the hidden success story inside a headline of decline. It suggests there's still a huge appetite for high-quality Swiss watches, just not necessarily at the absolute top of the price range.
Okay, so we've looked at the headline number, the regional differences, and this price point puzzle. Let's put it all together and figure out the key takeaways from all this data.
So, to sum it all up, the overall dip is really a story about the US market. Other major regions are actually doing quite well. And crucially, the weakness is specifically in that ultra-high-end category, while the mid-range segment is having a fantastic boom.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. As the highest end of the market slows down and that mid-range just soars, are we seeing a shift in consumer behavior? Is the sweet spot for luxury moving, and could this change how watch brands think about their products and their prices for years to come?